It is that time again of the year. Brand new set came out, time to build decks, time to really look at what is fun, new, interactive, and maybe non interactive. This is a great time to really just dive in. And not every deck can be the best version of itself because we need time to figure out what the metagame looks like in order to even get to that. But it is nice to say there are so many new cards that at least, pique an interest and they created a brand new deck. Today, we're going to discuss 12 brand new decks to Disney Lorcana, some of which are just imports from the last metagame to this metagame, but then most of them are brand new things that we couldn't even play before until Archazia Island. Let's get into it. Before we get started, a quick reminder that tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be having a week one guide to Archazia Island event over on Metafy. It's going to cover limited. It's going to cover the early goings of decks, what you should be expecting in your first couple tournaments, and how to prepare for them, and how to best succeed in the first few weeks of Archazia Island. Definitely check it out. Link in the pinned comments and in the description below. The boogeyman of the format, potentially of last and this format, none other than Ruby Sapphire. And now we have some new toys. That is right, we have the one, the only Sapphire Coil. It is a card that basically, since it was revealed in spoiler season, has caused nothing but heartache to many. It is a card that we will absolutely have to plan for. You'll have to understand how powerful it can be and how it can turn cards like Brawl and Sisu into effective 3-cost Dragonfires in most situations. Even the idea that you can turn Medusa into basically removing any character in the game that doesn't have Ward. The other addition to this is, of course, the new Tamatoa. The idea that we can now pop our items early, get them back for free when you play the character, and then even when you quest, put giant items into play as well. This deck is kind of a trick to the trade of everything. It is one of those hey, we're going to try a little bit of everything, kind of explore early, get an understanding of what cards work well, and then make the best decisions as we get through the first couple of weeks of testing. Really important thing about this is that when it comes to new sets, my personal goal is to just play as many new cards as possible. This list is 64 cards, which is ridiculous, don't get me wrong, but it's okay. We're testing, right? We're just getting in there, we're trying some stuff out, seeing what works. I have already printed out some test cards and we've been playing in the Discord and things like that. So it's just nice to say, let's just get in there. Let's play some games. Let's get some information. Prince John's the other kind of new card here, but for those of you that don't remember, we actually had a red-blue deck in top 16 of NACC, and that deck was featuring Prince John. Double downing. Card's great, guys. If you haven't tried him yet, just give him a shot, in all honesty. But yeah, this is just step one, version one, as we could say, because over the next few weeks, lots are going to change. Lots are going to be figured out. Information is going to come out. Metagame's going to get analyzed, and you get to make better decisions. But as we start early, you're going to see a lot of these decks are just trying new cards, and that's what's most important, is really just getting out there, getting under the understanding of what cards are good, what cards are bad, and you can't learn if a card's bad or good if you don't play with it. So that's what we're doing today. Sapphire Steel is the other big raging deck of the format, potentially. Everyone's quite excited for the wonderful Bell that has the ability to simply, banish a Popsicle, banish a Fortisphere, come into play on turn one, and then just kind of start moving the game forward. This particular deck is not utilizing Bell to the fullest for what it's worth, as it's not even having cards that it can sing. It's just more or less putting a 3/3 body on the board that just says, hey, I'm going to kind of eat up the game. I'm going to prevent your first couple characters from really doing anything and stinting them. But the core of this deck is basically similar to what the DKP Ruby Sapphire deck was doing in Azurite Sea metagame, where we're just trying to find out the best and quickest and most efficient way to put Tamatoa into play. A turn one Mulan or Zimba to kind of cycle through your hand, really get to the cards that you want, which are Tipo, which are Astal the Azurite Sea, and then, of course, How Far I'll Go. In any game in which we can play a Tipo on 2, and then maybe even a Pleakley or a How Far I'll Go on 3, it means that we're going to have 6 ink on turn 4, and we can start playing cards like Ariel, start playing cards like Tamatoa, and just really kind of take over the game in many aspects of it. Of course, having a turn 3 McDuck Manor in certain matchups, if we go turn 1 Bell, turn 2 Tipo, turn 3 McDuck Manor, you're now really like able to defend the Manor pretty well, and of course you're able to just like pressure your opponent really well. This deck is looking to attack on multiple fronts, and it also has a nice little addition. The Floodborn Zimba is a card that hasn't been able to see much play. This might finally be a way for it to slide in and kind of catch people off guard. The idea that you can shift 4 to a 3/5 out of your 1/2 and banish an item or a location, it's pretty strong for that particular character. At the end of the day, this is a Lucky Dime deck. Anytime that we can quest with Tamatoa and play a Lucky Dime for free, we are going to feel like we are on cloud 9. Ink Geyser, the other wonderful card that upon being revealed definitely caused some head turns. It is a card that is without a doubt profound. The idea that you can simply reset the game whenever you so choose and your opponent doesn't have a lot of ways to prevent it from happening is very, very powerful. This is a deck that on day one, I put it together. I've been messing around with it a little bit, enjoying it, and having fun. It's absolutely a deck that's going to change a bunch because it's so brand new. Ink Geyser, in all honesty, is just there might be 8 ways to build this deck, and it's just the truth. Like because it's such a dynamic card, and because it gives you so much choice and creativity of how to best abuse it, it's really hard to just like compound what is the best route to doing so. So this is a list that, this is version 1. There honestly is 8 versions of version 1 because there's so many different things to do with it. There's this version, there's item versions, there's Hiro Hamada versions, there's just like grandma, like there's just so many different ways to play Ink Geyser right now that working through all of them is going to be a process. It's honestly, that's exactly what this is. But you can see here in this particular deck list, we're doing a bunch of different things. The ultimate goal here is to shift in a big character like a Basil, like a Mother Gothel, like a Clarabelle, and then establish board. And then as long as we can also establish a Fishbone Quill, all of a sudden what can turn into is like, we can play a Fishbone Quill on 3. We can then shift into our Basil or our Clarabelle. And then kind of the following turn, our whole goal is going to be Ink Geyser, pick up all our cards, ink with Fishbone Quill, sing a song with our shift character like Mother Knows Best or How Far I'll Go, and then maybe even play another card like Sail the Azurite Sea or a Vision or a Tipo just to like keep the game going forward. But really what it's doing is setting your opponent back as far as possible so you are so far ahead that they can't really return to the game. And in some game states, we can also set up these wonderful like Prince John's mirrors. So we just Ink Geyser and then we mirror our opponent and we're like, go ahead, dude, figure it out. So there's a lot of like really back and forth here of just deciding, hey, what is the most effective way to utilize Ink Geyser? This is, again, one of many versions that are probably out there that you're probably going to see. And it's just understanding like the core concept of get big character in play for cheap, Ink Geyser, sing songs, keep the game going forward, keep the pressure on, and find a way to just like close out games, honestly, most likely behind a McDuck's Manor, where it's just consistently getting too lore and your opponent doesn't have enough resources to fairly answer it. Lady from Park Avenue, Aggro, is definitely a card that people are very excited for, and it's a deck that people are really excited to bring back. There are many versions of this deck as well. I love the idea of just playing 60 characters here, jamming right into my opponent's face and saying, hey, I have so many 2 lore characters that my lady from Park Avenue is always going to represent anywhere between 6 to 7 lore, maybe even more if we include the shenanigans that we can get away with Go-Go as well. This deck is just in your face every turn, turn my guy sideways, tell my opponent to figure it out. We have 1, 2, 3 characters that cost 1 that have 2 lore on them, which is insane. We also have the wonderful Lilos, the Piglets. Now we have Baymax Low Battery, which is one of my favorite arts in the set because I think it's hysterical, and still Flynn Rider Amore. This just has a bit of everything, and even the protective shells of Pegasus, and then Lady, of course, to bring back cards. If you really want to go to the extent, you can even consider playing Kita in this deck as well. Right now, relying on Clarabelle as that way to draw cards back up, or relying on Lady to help us close out the game by picking back up a Piglet and a Baymax or a Flynn Rider as kind of just ways to close out the game. I think Lady is going to be very straightforward. I think it's going to be a very powerful deck, and there are definitely going to be games where you just steamroll your opponent and they didn't even have an opportunity to really play. If that's your strategy, this is a wonderful way to start opening weekend. I always suggest opening weekend. Playing aggro early is just great because your opponents are all figuring out like, oh, how am I going to build my Anchorizer deck? Do I want Sapphire Coil? Do I want Sisu's? Like, all of these questions are kind of going on, and you're like, this deck's like, I don't really care what questions you're asking yourself. I'm telling you, figure it out, or I'm just going to get the 20 lore. Yesterday, we officially released our ultimate guide for Archazia Island on the Metafy. This guide, to start, is going to cover Limited in a big way. You're going to see all the best commons, best uncommons, special things that you want to look out for when building. You're going to find the buyer's guide for Archazia Island, really what's going to start, what to predict, what cards you should probably consider buying early, what cards you maybe should wait on. And then it's also going to include my first tournament report. I played in a tournament this weekend already. I want to get them in there. This is going to be weekly updates to this. Financial updates, drafting advice, tournament reports, meta breakdowns, all of those things are going to be included in the Ultimate Guide. This is just a kickstart. The first 4 chapters are available, and we'll be looking to add even more before the release of Set 7. This is just a kickstart, but hey, it's a great way to support the channel, great way to get involved. This is going to be basically our notebook, of the entire Set 7. Every single time we play in events, you guys are going to hear about it, and this is where you're going to find it. The Queen of Heart is representing the Queen's Return. That's right. We are playing the Return of Hercules in this deck, and this is a very, very brand new looking concept focused around 2 cards that are in Archazia Island. These are my favorite things. We talk about all the time. We love brand new cores for this channel. This is a returning concept of saying, hey, this is what they gave us. This is what's new to Disney Lorcana. Let's embody it and let's go head on. This deck is encompassing several different cards that are really insane. Of course, the Queen of Hearts, I've been talking about it for weeks. I love this card. I'm obsessed. The idea we have Morph as a shift target and our own Queen of Hearts. We also have the ability to play the 1/4 Queen of Hearts as well if we would like to. Or not, but we could. This is also just saying, hey, in your face action. We have ways to draw cards from Clarabelle. We have the wonderful Sisu that's incredibly good. We have ways to draw because of Queen of Hearts, sensing weakness. Whenever we challenge, we draw a card. The Scar Vengeful Lion. Whenever one of your characters challenges a damage character, you may draw a card. Spoilers, that's what the Queen of Hearts Unpredictable Bully is doing. It's damaging everything. And we're now setting up these crazy big lines for the Return of Hercules. The idea that if we can set up Queen of Hearts and then we can play a Return of Hercules, we can even go to the extent of dropping a Prince Philip Vanquisher of Foes. 9 cost, inkable, 6 strength, 6 willpower with 3 lore. Has shift 6, which we do have morph when in doubt, but it also has the ability Swift and Sure. Whenever you play this character, banish all opposing damage characters. It also has evasive, by the way. So it is a 6/6 3 lore evasive on top of the idea that it gets to banish everything that has a damage. So the way that works with the Return of Hercules is that you would play Return of Hercules. Each, you and your opponent put the card in play. So we put Prince Philip in play, and they put their character in play. The bag triggers go in the bag, which is Prince Philip and Queen of Hearts. We decide to resolve Queen of Hearts first, so their character will take a damage. Our Prince Philip will then resolve and banish that character and all other characters with damage on it, and move the game forward. Of course, they will still get their trigger if they had a character when they played it. Their bag still does exist, and it still does go through. So, if they were to play a Maleficent, yes, we get to banish their Maleficent, but they also get to banish our Prince Philip. So don't think you can just cheat it and kind of remove it. That's not true. But the idea here for the Return of Hercules is that in Ruby Emerald, we don't really have ramp. We don't have a good way to kind of cheat out resources. So by playing a card like Return of Hercules in this deck and cheating out a 9 cost or even an 8 cost like Sisu, and honestly, even Scar or Clarabelle when necessary, it does kind of put us a turn ahead. Of course, you can see, we have cards like Maui Shark, which aren't as good in this particular list, but what it does is it represents a way to repeatedly bring back cards like Hercules, cards like Be Prepared, and I think it's just kind of encompassing really what Archazia's Island is. This is my favorite new deck because it is that. It's just saying, hey, this is what everything that Archaia's Island has to offer. So just take advantage of it. Take the chance, play new cards, have fun, enjoy the set for the first couple weeks while there's really just like low EV situation for most players where you're just like going to league, trying out new stuff. Just give it a go. I will say, problem with this particular list is that it's currently $440. So like if you don't have the Ruby cards that you need for this, it's probably a little pricey. So just, little bit of a warning, of course. All in all, very, very excited to play with this deck. I just think it is really what the point of Archaia's Island is, to point us in a direction, to give us the options to play new cards in a very specific way. And it's just like, here it is, go figure it out. And I'm very excited to do those things. Encanto songs. Isabel Madrigal in the moment is the core win condition to this list. As you can see here, although it's called Encanto songs, we really can't still play that many Encanto characters. While we can have several of them here, like the Mirabelles, like the Peppa Madrigal, and we can kind of get away with playing the Alma. So the Alma Madrigal, or of course, like the grandmother of the story, she has the ability of, to the table, when you play this character, you may search your deck for a Madrigal character and reveal that card to all players, shuffle your deck, and put that card on top. So this kind of enables you to just go and find your Isabella, which is your win condition. Before, playing Alma really didn't do anything for us. It just wasn't effective. There wasn't really a card that was worth finding. But going and finding Isabella and forcing our opponent to have multiple answers to Isabella is a big deal. Every time we want to just pick one up, we can just go and get another one. We also, have other ways to kind of utilize this if we want to go further. But right now, it's just understanding like, hey, if we can stick a Isabella, stick a flute, and then just sing songs the rest of the game, all of a sudden we're just gaining 5 lore a turn. That's very non-interactive for our opponents, along with still having a couple core good card answers to opposing decks. World's Greatest Criminal Mind looks really strong in the current metagame. It kind of removes a lot of really problematic characters. Having the additional lore gains from This Is My Family, having the additional lore gains from Peppa, it really can add up to make it a very short clock. Of course, you still have to play cards like Rapunzel and Ariel to kind of like sift through and find the cards that you need to be, successful in the game. But it's nice to say like, hey, we finally have a reason to play a card like Alma, to search for a card like Isabella. This is definitely one of those cards that, I would put closer to tier fun. But if you're an Encanto person, if you just like, singing Encanto songs like me, I do, seriously. I think I'm just excited to say, hey, at least if I wanted to show up to a league night, I could just play this deck and it would, I'm not saying it's going to 3-0. I don't think it's even tier 2 maybe, but it's just about that new core and that new thing that was finally given to us because of Archaia's Island. Isabel is a really powerful card when unchecked, and some decks just might not have an answer to it. So if you're looking to just kind of get in, play some Madrigals, this is where I would start. Racing on a budget, King Candy is here, guys. That's right. This deck comes in at the low cost of $30. What a standout. King Candy, the Royal Racer, is the key component. This is what this deck was waiting for. We are trying out some other cards like Calhoun, the Courageous Rescuer, but realistically, this list is just a King Candy deck. Understanding that every one of these characters, once King Candy is in play, aside from Lumiere, when banished, also banishes a character. The whole point of this deck is to just get rid of opponents' characters, keep everything off the board, and then just quietly quest away and gain conditional lore. Also, adding cards like Rapunzel's Tower makes cards a little bit bigger. If you wanted to take this deck off of a budget, I would just put Rapunzel in it. That way you can have another way to gain and draw more cards. But, there are cards like Calhoun in here. The I won't give in kind of helps you get back some of your racers. This is one of those, hey, if you're looking for something new to play that's cheap, that it's not going to break the bank, a lot of the new decks, in all honesty, guys, a lot of the new decks, Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Steel, Emerald Ruby, like the Ruby cards are so expensive that it's really hard to kind of get into them. And Amber can be that way because of Rapunzel. I really just wanted to try to diversify these lists and showcase like, hey, this is a list that is $30. It's very cheap, very easy to get into, something very new, and it's definitely fun. And again, encompassing Archazia Island, utilizing that new dual ink combination with Calhoun, with King Candy, and just double downing on saying like, hey, give this a shot. This deck in particular might still be missing some stuff, might not feel complete, but it is something new, something fun. And if you're just looking to try out new cards, and definitely if you're on a budget, this is a great place to start. The Frozen Cores. Right now, Sapphire Amethyst was a contender in the Azurite Sea metagame. It really just kind of was a value tempo deck, continuously playing Elsa, the Fifth Spirit, to keep things out, continuously playing Hades to just remove problematic cards. This is just a new way of looking at that and trying out the new sisters all the while. Elsa and Anna are two very unique new dual color cards. Anna, the Icebreaker, is the 4-cost thinkable, 2 strength, 3 willpower, 2 lore with support and winter ambush. When you play this character, chosen opposing character can't ready at the start of their next turn. And Elsa, the Ice Maker, is the 7-cost uninkable 5/5 with 2 lore, shift 4, and winter wall. Whenever this character quests, you may exert chosen character. If you do, and you have a character named Anna in play, the chosen character can't ready at the start of their next turn. But what this really is doing is it's enabling you to have more characters that you get to exert their characters. So you can really start controlling the board pretty well with Fifth Spirits, with the Icebreakers, with the Hades, with your Spirit of Winners. You can just kind of control the board and really just stave off the game. Anna and Elsa, it's very difficult to say these cards are going to be good enough. But if I wanted to try them, if I wanted to get them in and just say, hey, like I'm an honest Elsa fan, I like the cards, I want to give it my best go, this is a deck where I just think it's easy to slot them in, even though they might not be the best 7-card uses of the final 60 of this deck. The concept of saying, hey, if I just want to try it, this is how I'm going to try it. It fits into a really good shell, a really complete shell already. I don't think it's going to be the reason you're going to lose games in particular is because you're playing these cards. So it's definitely like, hey, if this is going to be a way to try out some new stuff, get the sisters going, this is exactly where I would begin in set 7. Oh, Mushu. Everyone is so excited for Mushu. Mushu, the Majestic Dragon, is the 5-cost 4/4 with 1 lore and 2 quite unique abilities. Intimidating and awe-inspiring. Whenever one of your characters challenges, they gain resist 2 during that challenge, and Guardian of the Lost Souls. During your turn, whenever one of your characters banishes another character in a challenge, gain 2 lore. This is really just saying, hey, I'm going to take the best steel cards. And hey, I'm going to take most of the best Ruby cards, but with some new tricks. Adding Mickey Mouse, adding Mulans, understanding that Fan the Flames is an insane combo with Shark, utilizing Raya as another core factor here. And it's a deck that gets away with playing not only Doc, but a whole new world. So many of your characters that when you shift them, they have the ability to sing a whole new world when they want to, or they're just around to sing a whole new world. But the other crazy thing is you can really have insane combos with a card like Raya and a whole new world. The idea that with all of our shift cost, we could play a Raya on 4 and then choose one of our characters in play, whether it's Mickey, whether it's Robin, shift onto that character, sing a whole new world, ink, and then ready our 5-cost character that can now challenge away and still move the game forward, along with drawing you 7 cards. It's a pretty nice little wombo combo when you set it up. And of course, it has the, in theory, infinite combo. And I do say, the word infinite because it's basically based on how many characters your opponent have. But the One Last Hope plus Fan the Flames plus Maui Shark just like turrets down a board. Obviously, the whole problem with all of this is that I don't even know that you need Mushu for any of these things, but what it does is that it really, it'll keep your characters in play longer. Resist 2 is really insane. So when you one last hope, you just like have resist 4, and I don't know how anything ever will get banished by on your side of the field. So you just get to turret down their board kind of thing, and you get to close out games a little faster. It also just enables like the come from behind victories a little bit easier when we're setting up these plays, and you're just like, okay, like Robin on 1, Calhoun on 2, Pete on 3, Raya on 4, or hopefully like a shift on 4. On turn 5, we can just play our Mushu, and while we might be trading our characters out with the board, we're still gaining lore and kind of catching up on that dial to make it a little bit easier to close out the game. I think this is a really fun deck. Again, just encompassing Archazia Island. We did get a little bit spoiled of this because a couple weeks ago, this is top 8'd a 5K and SSG, and this just like enhanced it a little bit, and it just gave us a little bit more push to say, hey, you're going in the right direction. I've been saying this for weeks now. The dual ink combo just giving us direction of what the designers kind of are building this ink combo to do. Mushu is confirmation that this is in the right direction. If we're looking for another budget deck, then look no further than Pirates. That is right, the wonderful Emerald Steel Pirates. We got this insanely good Daisy Duck a few months ago and never really had a good opportunity to use her. Daisy Duck Pirate Captain is a 4-cost inkable, 3 strength, 3 willpower with 2 lore, and the ability Distant Shores. Whenever one of your pirates quests, while at a location, draw a card. Now with that, we now have DeVille Manor, we have Hidden Cove, we have Seven Dwarves Mine. So now, whenever we are questing with our pirates, we get to continue this game moving forward and drawing cards. Before, there just wasn't enough Emerald Pirates. There wasn't really much incentive to play locations either. But, now we just have dock, and we do dock things with Seven Dwarves Mine. And honestly, Seven Dwarves Mine is just good, period. With just dock, we don't need to go to the extent of playing Happy. But now we also have more pirates to really double down on this effect. We picked up Greenwich. We picked up another Mr. Smee. We picked up, of course, the Pete Space Pirate, which is a ridiculous 6-cost 5/5 with 2 lore, shift 5, and the ability Frightful Scheme. When this character is exerted, opposing characters can exert to sing songs, and your pirate characters gain resist 1. This is really making this deck a little bit hardy. It makes your, straightforward lines very powerful, giving a glorious anthem effect of 1 resist to everybody on a 5/5 body that gives it to himself. I watched a couple games last night. This guy hit the play, and it was so difficult to remove, and he just made everything more annoying. He even took away the Smee damage, which is awesome at giving the Smee resist 1. Just a lot of really intricate things here. And of course, we're still playing part of that Action Matters deck now because of Mr. Smee Efficient Captain. Whenever you play an action that isn't a song, you may ready Chosen Pirate. This way you have Mosquito Bites, you have Improvise, you have Fire the Cannons, and we're even going to the extent of going old school and playing Captain Hook, Captain of the Jolly Roger, that gets back Fire the Cannons. Lots of crazy ideas here, just gaining conditional lore. This might be a nice little fun combo deck. This is a budget deck. It does come in at around $75 right now. It might be a little bit more money depending on how much the Pete's actually run you. Another dock deck, of course, because where would we be without Amethyst Steel dock? This list was pretty easy to upgrade, but we still are trying to make the most of it. Again, I really love just trying new cards. So whether or not I think a card is good, insane, bad, or just under the radar, I still like to play the games to confirm my theories. This is a deck that is going to play 1 Restoring the Crown. It's going to play 1 Gantu. These are 2 cards that I'm not positive about. I think Gantu has all of the right text box to be good, but it's still a 2/4 for 4 that's uninkable, that doesn't have evasive. So you're still playing in this world of, do I always want to play this card for 4? What am I doing with it? If I'm always thinking Zeus, I guess it's okay, but it also means I'm playing another uninkable that costs 4. My hands might get cluttered. It just gets clunky, and I'm kind of very wary about it. Restoring the Crown, I think, is so very close, and it's going to create those board states that this deck naturally creates. This deck naturally creates these board states where opponents just stand still and they don't do anything, and they're like, all right, we're just going to wait for the perfect opportunity, wait for me to break serve, wait for my opponent to mess up. That's kind of what's going on. Well, Restoring the Crown just says, I don't care about that. I'm going to play it. I'm going to exert your whole board. I'm going to come out on top because I'm going to take all of the best trades, gain 2 lore for all of these trades, and still have a character in play. That type of card just feels so good that it's hard to deny, even at 6 costs uninkable. And, when in doubt, we do have Doc. We can just get rid of it and just move on with life and keep the game moving forward. You can also maybe even play Mulan in this deck, which currently there isn't, but it's an option for sure. And then, just going through it. Cobra is it, guys. Like, Amethyst Steel just got a, like, I don't even know how many levels above White Roses, but that's what they just got. This card, being able to get from 18 to 20 is just so good. Like, it's so good. The idea that you can get from 16 to 20 by picking it up with Snake, kind of insane. I'm just going to be honest, guys. Like, I played a game this week where I played a Cobra. I ditched a card. I went from 16 to 18. I played Snake. I picked up my Cobra, and my opponent just knows that he's dead. Like, he knows I already won the game. They already know, like, wow, if I can't win the game, my opponent's just going to draw a card, play their Cobra, ditch, and the game is over, and there's just nothing I can do about it. That much reach on one card is very, very powerful, and this deck is not going anywhere. There's plenty of versions of this deck. It's going to be, everything's going to be updated on the guide next week. This week was very much focused on the event that's happening. Spoilers, go check out that event. But next week, we're going to have a full chapter or 2-chapter update to the doc guide. Definitely be on the lookout for that. That's always in the comments below, in the description below as well. So if you're a doc fan, don't worry. We got you covered. We're not giving up on doc because guess what? It's really good. Who needs the quest anyway? Honestly, this deck was so much fun. This was the deck that I played this week in my first experiences playing set 7. I went 2-1 at the tournament. I went 4-2 in games against Ruby Sapphire, and then I got 0-2'd by Amethyst Steel Doc. It really hurt. I also played a couple games before the event. I went 1-1 with the Kiwi Birds-esque Sapphire Steel list, but this deck was really fun. It was not an Ink Geyser deck. I just didn't want to explore too much into an open field. I really just want to play games with the team with Ink Geyser before I start really putting strides forward in that list. But this was like a, hey, let's play Hiro Hamada because everyone thinks this card's bad, and I think the card is insane. I'm calling it right now. I am so excited to play in set championships because I think Hiro Hamada is a banger. The card is so good. 4/6, 3 lore, evasive, ward. Insane. Honestly, a card is so good. And by playing this deck, I did realize very quickly what the weaknesses are, and that's good. That's a good thing. But that's why we play new cards because we look at a card like Hiro and like, oh, well, if we don't shift it, it's just like not good. It's just not going to do anything. That's fine. Like, I get it. But if it protects my Clarabelle, if my Clarabelle all of a sudden is an evasive with ward and they have to get through my Hiro first to even get to my, Clarabelle, awesome. Like, that's so good. That's like where I want to live. Like, but the idea that all these cards, when they have ward, they just make Sapphire Coil look like a joke. This deck also just has Clarabelles in it, so they can pop the Sisus, which are pop the Sapphire Coils, which is great. And then Grandma Tala, no joke. The Grandma Tala here, guys. I gained 29 lore in one game with Grandma Tala. It was just from inking. It's pretty fun, pretty good. But yeah, this was just a first kind of like check to me. I wrote about this in the Ultimate Guide, is our first tournament report. I wrote a whole tournament report about it, why I built this version of the deck, why I think it has successful, where I would go moving forward with it, and everything like that. And that's exactly what that guide is going to be about. So if you're looking to hear more about this, then definitely go and check out the pinned comment of that guide and really just understanding like, hey, this is everything we are working towards. This is why we play games. This is why we try new cards. Honestly, guys, I feel like there's been a lot of mixed reviews about Archazia Island, and I'm on the other side of the fence. I really think that there is a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of brand new cards, a lot of brand new archetypes, and they don't look easy, right? That's the whole here. We've never had a good Ruby Steel deck. We've never had a good Emerald Ruby deck. Sapphire Amethyst has still been on the outs. Amber Emerald hasn't gotten there fully, but now we have all these cards that are just double downing on archetypes. They're showcasing you that there is a strategy there. There is something to be unlocked when the effort is put in. And I think that that is what Archazia Island is doing. It's giving us the opportunity to explore. And I think that that is what I'm most excited about. And I really am hoping that in a couple weeks, they're just not decks that are going to get figured out on day one. It's just not going to happen. It's going to take time. Ruby Sapphire is so dominant and it's so established, very similar to Ruby Amethyst was for a very long time, very similar to Amber Steel Songs was for a very long time. They had identity. These new decks, they didn't have it yet. We have to figure it out. We have to work towards that goal of getting it. And that's what I'm most excited about for Archazia Island, and I hope you guys are too. I'd love for you guys to let me know in the comments where you're starting, what you're most excited about. Let me know, hey, this is the deck that I'm playing because I love this character. I don't care. I played Hiro Hamada the other day because people were like, this card's bad. And I won. I literally won a game with just 2 Hiro Hamadas. Like just shift 1, shift 2, quest for 6, quest for 6, quest for 6, game was over. That's exactly what happened. So that card's insane. Like until I am literally proven otherwise, in my book, Hiro Hamada is going to be the best set championship card to date, and I can't wait to play for them. But thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this helped you kind of figure out what you're going to do early on. If it's a budget deck, great. If it's a new deck, awesome. If it's one of the more expensive decks, I'm glad you have a collection like I do and you kind of build whatever you want. But all in all, so very excited for Archazia Island, and I hope you are too. If you like this video, hit that like button for me. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this type of content, definitely hit subscribe. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you in the next video.